Greetings, everyone. While we wait for everybody to join us this morning, morning, afternoon, depending on where you're at, we've got a few polls open on the right-hand side of your window here. You could just flip through those. We'll talk about them more later in the discussion, but if you've had a chance to read through them, it can help us along. As you look through those polls on the right, we're planning on starting about 1 minute after, just to let people finish up whatever meetings they're in and come join us. Also on the right-hand side, you'll notice a spot for questions. We will be answering those throughout the discussion as well as at the end. So feel free to raise any concerns, whether they be technical or AV or anything else. For those that have just joined us, we're going to start in about 1 minute. I want to let everybody to get in here and join us. If you look on the right-hand side of your screen, there'll be a place to send us questions that we can address during and at the end of the conversation of the webinar, as well as some polls that we'd like you to flip through and answer. We'll definitely address the data towards the end. We're just going to give everybody a few more seconds to join, and then we'll get started. All right, greetings, everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar on how to make your products healthier with protein at the price of flour. My name is Jamie Valenti Jordan. I am a strategic advisor for Planetarians. I've been working in the food industry for about 12 years with the likes of Campbell Soup, Del Monte, and Hampton Creek. Like I said before we get started, there's a place on the right for questions and polls. If you could enter your questions in there, we'll make sure that we address them by the end of the discussion. And we've got some fun things we're going to do with the polls at the end. So if you could flip through those, especially as you get distracted and whatnot, and want to look at those. All this information is shared anonymously, so the better you put in, the better discussion we can have. All right, so with that, let's get to the webinar. On the agenda for today, we're going to lay the framework for kind of where the market trends are, explain how we fit into that, explain our product, how to use it, and communicate to others the virtues of the product. So if we're in this if we're in this discussion together, sorry, next slide. So if we're in this discussion together, we're all pretty much aware of the 9 to 10 billion people that we're planning on having by about 2050, and the concern about how to try to feed those people. There was a recent Food Navigator article I saw, was it last week, I think, that cites a collection of researchers that have proposed a way out, but if you've looked at that, it's some pretty heavy lifting that we've got to do in very quickly within the food industry. So, just to kind of lay some of that framework, the first thing that we need to do is farm less animals, because they can't really be our solution for feeding the world long term. Essentially, animals have been nutrient concentrators or silos for us to store nutrients until cold weather comes around. Historically, that's ancestrally, that's what we've been using them for. But they take so much land, water, and feed, which is then also more land and water, to silo those that nutrition, that as our population grows, we're going to have problems. So that's why globalization is really the next big step for us. Also, it's kind of hilarious how much not hilarious. It's comical and sad at the same time. How much water and air pollution that they generate. It's amazing that cattle do that. But so I'm going to assume that this is kind of our shared knowledge base and move on. So let's look at the market response to these type of issues that we've been facing. In 2017, we saw the introduction of many more plant-based products across the board. We know that the diet and nutrition category adopts all sorts of things first, some things that never pan out. But we saw a migration from the diet and nutrition category over to desserts and yogurts in 2017. So either that means we have a fad that's kind of migrating out of that silo, or it's a trend that's going to flow through the rest of the food industry. The latter kind of helps the situation we just talked about. So I'm guessing that everybody else is talking to Mintel and others about this, which is why you guys are here to talk more about our solutions. So just one last little bit of history. How did we really start looking at plant-based products to be our solution? There's been movements from different groups, one of which, for good or ill, has been Just Inc., now formerly Hampton Creek. It's going to sound a little bit like an ad for them, but it is part of the market history and market story. I'll try to rush through it. They set themselves up not as a CPG, but more as a focused disruptor. They developed a product, built a brand, just to prove that it could be done. Their goal was not really to make margin and cash flow, but change the category. And so, to that extent, we've all of us chasing that to some extent is an illustration of their success. Since then, they've been building a tech base and trying to launch new solution spaces, but that's not really what we're here to talk about. The point of this is that they set the stage for other startups like us, Planetarians, to be able to focus on a mission-based goal. So to speak to the mission of Planetarians, I have our CEO, Ale. He's one of the most energetic and passionate people I've ever met, not to mention smart and intuitive. But without further ado, Ale, can you share more about Planetarians with us?
Sure. Thank you, Jamie, for the introduction and for warming up the audience. Let me tell you the story how we started. So we with Anastasia are the food and culinary scientists, the same as you are. And previously, we formulated and sold more than 1 million servings of our nutritionally complete meals. And sourcing the new ingredients for one of our new products, we stumbled upon defatted seeds. They were high in protein, 35%, but extremely cheap. I remember I used to pay $5,000 for the metric ton of soy protein. Here, I was asked just 200. Why? Why are they so extremely cheap? Well, because they're hard like wood chips, and if you start cooking something out there, it will turn into the moldy green color. But the low cost, I was very curious how to get it for our formulations. And once we figure out how to break the fiber and eliminate the green color, and eventually make the protein available for human consumption, we got the flour. The flour with a 35% protein At extremely low cost, we match the all-purpose flour, selling it for the 50 cents per pound and less if you buy in truckloads. But later, looking at that flour, we thought, well, we might stumble something bigger than the just cost optimization for one product line. We saw that our protein becomes available for many people here in the United States as well overseas in Africa. So we can reduce the impact on the planet because we upcycle what's already grown, and we don't need to emit more greenhouse gases. And we can feed 10 times more people if we repurpose the upcycled ingredients from animals for human consumption. So right now, our goal as the company is to repurpose 100% of defeated seeds for humans. And since you are the food scientist, let me show you the product through the lens of nutrition. On this chart, we summarized potential options if you work with the functional flours. You can see a big range of products starting from the soy to ancient grains to pulses. And the first row, it's a taste. You know that if it has the grassy aftertaste and you cannot mask it, or it's too expensive to mask it, it's not the candidate for your formulations. Luckily, with sunflower defeated seeds, we have a very neutral, nutty aftertaste, barely recognizable in the final products. Second thing, the wholesale price. I think many of you are ready to use the proteins to improve your nutritional values, but sometimes the price could be a hurdle that you need to surpass somehow. So we're trying to match the all-purpose flour, offering it for the 50 cents per pound. We have 35% protein. It's a triple amount compared to the all-purpose flour. And unlike the only offer here we have from sunflower or from soy flour, we are GMO-free and allergen-free for those who are looking for the clean labels and allergen-free status. Now let's look at our ingredient through the lens of the FDA guidelines as the source of the protein and fiber. And if we apply this filter, you can see that flour from defeated sunflower seeds falls into the good source of protein and good source of the fiber. And for those who are curious about the protein quality, I could say that our protein digestibility is 90, PDCAAS is 50, but you never eat the one type of flour alone. So if you mix it with a wheat flour or pulses, the amino acid profile compensate each other and increases up to 85. Now let's go through the functional properties. And the first question is green. Is it green or not? No. We spent a whole summer working with our ingredients and finally found the way how to, without heavy chemicals, neutralize the green colorogenic acid. And once we did it, it opened the way to make the beautiful applications. For instance, like these burger buns. And you can see the growth of the fiber and protein content if we just mix it 1/3 of our flour, Planetarian's flour, and 70% of the all-purpose flour. Same thing with the pizza crust. If we replace 1/3 of all-purpose flour with our ingredients, this is what we get in the digits. But I think you will be curious to hear it not only from my side, but hear from the chefs who already had a chance to play with the flour. Let me play the interview we recorded from our New York partner. And let me start.
So my name's Anna. I'm a pastry chef living in New York City. I focus primarily on sustainable recipes. With the planetarian flour, I made pizza dough and burger buns. I found like barely any taste. Like it was super subtle. It didn't really add any flavor of its own to the recipes. So that was really positive, I think, to build versatility in the product. Because with a lot of other like alternative flours, you find a really really strong taste that it carries, and it's kind of hard to incorporate it into all recipes. And I found it easy to build a gluten formation even just using my hands, which is pretty impressive because with actually all other alternative flours, you're not really able to do that. And you just like mix and mix and mix and like add starch or add like a gum, you know, to get it to create that texture that you want. But with the 100 mesh, it really acted just like all purpose. So as I mentioned, I used it just for 2 yeasted doughs. But for this flour, I think really it can be used in pretty much all recipes where you would see all-purpose and like swapped out for a 30-70 ratio. So yeah, I could in like cakes, cookies, tart doughs particularly. So therefore, the planetarians would also be applicable for pasta preparations. It looks like cake dough or cake batter or bread dough, but it's black. So, you know, like it's easy enough to recognize, and I think that I like the fact that it seems like something that everybody could really use easily.
This is the what Anna created. So this is the pancakes made with the planetarians flour. This is the cupcake muffin, and also increase the fiber and protein. Cookies, you already saw that. Bread, you can give access to the plant-based protein through the bread. And this is the image of the pasta. And pasta a little bit different from the doughs that we mentioned earlier. So let me turn on the video with the chef who played with the pasta, with the rice-based pasta. Hold on.
Hi, my name is Jimmy from Naughty Noahs, and we're piloting the sunflower defatted seeds from Planetarians. We applied it for our noodles, and research behind this is how can we increase the protein content in our noodles currently. The texture is still consistently great. As far as the flavor, is a slight little nutty flavor and very balanced. So not a very strong. I think the color is fine. I don't think it's foreign, especially for noodles. What's the one thing that I like about the sunflower defatted seeds is that it's utilized, like what you guys are doing, utilizing a byproduct and increasing the protein content to my application. That's like really awesome, and it's another step. Being a manufacturer or an ingredient manufacturer, you know, taking a byproduct and making use out of that, really paying forward to the planet, and that's what we're aligned with. So that's what we really like and enjoy about what you're doing.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy. So this is the nutritions that the Naughty Noahs are capable to reach. I believe that many of you already saw our snacks that we launched this spring on the Amazon, offering the triple amount of protein, 2 times more fiber, less fat. It's like the good for you chips. But let's limit these applications. Let's look forward. So you saw the noodles, so the salty snacks, crackers. We didn't mention the soups, gravies, yogurt-like substances and hummus, but you may play it in your kitchen. If you want samples, we're ready to provide, and I will be very curious on your feedback. And for those who really work in the far future, if you want to play with 3D printing, so we know that our flour works, and I will be here glad to hear your feedback. And now let me turn the page and speak a little bit about the marketing claims, because I believe that nutrition is good, but the marketing department will be asking, guys, what we can offer outstanding in this competitive environment. And since we have a very deep sustainability story here, so you can play with the theme of feeding the growing population. Let me tell you how. So everybody knows that 40% of the food wasted, but it seems nobody mentions that 90% of the calories were lost by animal agriculture even before the food reaches our plates. And let me show you how. Animals are extremely inefficient means to convert 1 calories into another. From initial 100 calories, for instance, in our defeated seeds, if you feed them to poultry and consume as chicken, you get only 17% for human consumption. For swine, only 9% you get from the pork. And if you feed those initial 100% calories for cows, you have mere 3% back from the beef. Repurposed for the direct human consumption, you save all those calories. You can feed more people without pressure on the land. On this chart, you can see the pressure of the land created by the animals in regards of the greenhouse gases, water consumption, land use, and you can see zeros here for the upcycling ingredients because they already grown. It's already available. All we need to do just to put into our products. And how can you communicate this with your customers? Luckily, we have the dark color of our flour, and this is the clear sign for customers. One thing, if you get the refined white dough, white pizza crust. Another thing, if you get the craft-looking pizza crust with a double protein. It's like the craft beer and the conventional beer you buy off the shelves. Now let me summarize what we've told you during this webinar. So we offer the nutritious flour with a 35% protein in it at the price of the all-purpose flour. It's cheaper than isolated proteins. Mixing it with the all-purpose flour in a proportion 1/3 to 2/3 doubles the protein content, and you can put this marketing claim on the package. And you can stay in the range of the clean label. It's non-GMO, allergen-free, and you can start the ongoing conversation with your customers about the reducing impact on the planet and feeding the growing population. At this moment, let me stop and answer your questions. Jamie, can you announce what type of questions do we have?
Certainly. Before we get to questions, I just wanted to go over the poll results. Looks like we had a few folks fill that out. Wanted to express my appreciation for that. Thank you. Looks like from a industry perspective, pretty much everybody taste is always king and price is right behind that. Looks like GMOs are important to our audience. Emulsion stability, which I believe is we reference in our specifications under.
True. And I will show you that slide a little bit. Right now, I can do it.
How about right now? That sounds great.
Yeah. Okay. Do you see this? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. This will actually address one of our questions as well. So, so the question was whether or not our meal product is made from just the kernels, or is it made from the hulls as well? And if so, why are kernels so much more expensive than our product?
Yeah. Well, when you work with the kernels, you have to buy the kernels, and it contains not only the fiber, the carbs, protein, but it also contains the oil. So the kernels are expensive. We work with the byproducts, the profits already extracted with the oil. So that's why we have such a low price. Regarding the shells, yes, we have roughly 18% of the shells in the defetted seeds, because normal process of the oil extraction leave that range, roughly 18%. But since more and more customers appreciate the fiber, it feeds our microbiome. We love to have this fiber in our flour.
Excellent. There's been a few requests on whether or not this product can be made organic.
Yes, it can be made organic. In our laboratory, so we made multiple tests with different variations. And for instance, if we get the cold pressed organic oil cake from the plant, we can process it. We can process it if it contains up to 16% of the fat in it. Yes, it can be certified. It's a little bit longer story that right now, so we cannot deliver it to you at this moment, but at a special request, yes, it's possible.
Excellent. Let's see here. Looking through, trying to pick something that a lot of people have asked about. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Pitakas work that was done?
Yes, let me put this slide, and if you look at this, so in sunflower and sunflower defetted seeds, the lysine and methionine are two limiting amino acids. So we try to find the matching ingredients that can compensate lysine and methionine. And we find the pulses. You can use the mung bean or chickpea flour, and wheat flour that compensated pretty well. So we got the increase in Pitakas 85%. So that's if you want, we can share with you the specs and the specific recipes. Then we play it with these formulations, or you can actually play it on your own.
Excellent. I know this is in the spec, but the question came up: what's the shelf life of the flour?
Well, given that they have 1% and less fat in it, the shelf life is 1 year and up. So it's you may treat it like the regular all-purpose flour.
Let's see here. Can you tell us a little bit more about any other applications beyond what we discussed?
Beyond the discussed. Well,
for
guys,
example, batters or breading or
breadings. Yeah, that's right now we are talking with meat companies. Some of them process the chicken, some of them process fish, and they cannot remove the meat completely out of their value chain, but they already incorporate the plant-based protein. So they consider using the breadings for their meat products. Yeah, that's if you want to play again. Let me offer you samples, and if you might heard, we right now have the fine 100 mesh, very fine flour, but we can make it coarser. Let's say 50 mesh, and it will be better for your breadcrumbs.
Excellent. Some people have heard about. We've also got in development a flower that might be a different color. Is there any information we can share about that at this time, or is it just something we have to say it's in the future?
We have some advances about the white collar. But let me remind you of the marketing claim that we want to deliver on the market. So we see the great potential in offering the craft-looking dark door. It's not green, it's brown, it's appealing for the customers. So we think that's our distinguishing mark. Definitely, we will be working on the white versions of our flower, but I don't think they will be ready to serve it in the very near future.
Excellent. I think we've hit a lot of people's questions. If anyone else has any last-minute questions, we've got a couple minutes left in the webinar. All right. Let's see here. Oh, another one just came in. Oh, that's a comment about the bleached flower. Okay. Well, in the effort, I always like to end my meetings early so that people can get on to their next thing. If you have any other further questions, please email me or Ale at any time. Our emails are in this presentation. This recording will be sent to you this afternoon in your email. If you are interested in samples, email either of us. We're happy to get those in the works for you. If you want to discuss anything specifically to your application, we definitely have the resources to do that. So please just reach out and let us know how we can help.
Okay, thank you very much, Jamie, for co-hosting our webinar. Thank you, everyone, for the participation. So hope to see you soon again. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.